Have you ever spent hours trying to memorize new words, only to forget them within days? If that sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not alone. But what if I told you there's a smarter, easier way to learn new vocabulary and actually remember it? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll discover powerful techniques to make words stick in your memory effortlessly. Why memorizing words is hard. Memorizing words isn't just about repetition, it's about strategy. Many learners struggle because they focus on memorization instead of understanding. They write down long lists, cram words into their brains, and hope for the best. But this method rarely works in the long run. Have you ever wondered why you can remember song lyrics from years ago, but forget a vocabulary list in days? That's because our brains are wired for connection and meaning, not raw memorization. When we learn a word with no real context, our brain sees it as unimportant and discards it. But when we create meaningful associations, connect it to images, or use it actively, it sticks. This is why we need a smarter approach, one that taps into the brain's natural ability to retain information. If you're tired of forgetting words, don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to retain new words easily and use them like a pro. Common challenges when memorizing words. Before we talk about solutions, let's address the main reasons why people struggle with memorizing vocabulary. Understanding these challenges will help us tackle them effectively. First, learning words without context is a major issue. Many people memorize words in isolation, without connecting them to anything meaningful. When you do this, words feel random, and your brain doesn't know what to do with them. Second, overloading with too many words leads to frustration. Trying to learn 50 new words in one session overwhelms your memory. Your brain can only retain so much information at a time. Instead of absorbing the words, you'll likely forget most of them the next day. Third, lack of repetition is another roadblock. Learning a word once and expecting to remember it forever isn't realistic. Without spaced repetition, new information fades quickly. Fourth, not using words in real life is a problem. If you never apply the words in speech, writing, or thinking, your brain will assume they're unnecessary and erase them. Finally, over-reliance on translation prevents deep learning. Constantly translating words back to your native language slows down your thinking process and creates a barrier between you and fluency. Instead, it's better to associate words directly with their meanings in English. Smart strategies to memorize words. Faster, now that we've identified the challenges, let's go over the best strategies to memorize words efficiently. One of the most effective techniques is learning words in context. Instead of memorizing a word by itself, learn it within a sentence or story. For example, instead of just remembering the word elaborate, use it in a real-life sentence like, "Can you elaborate on that idea?" This way, your brain connects the word to an actual scenario, making it easier to recall. Reading books, watching movies, and listening to conversations in English are great ways to absorb words in context. Another powerful tool is visualization and association. Our brains remember images better than text. When you learn a new word, create a mental picture. If you're learning mountain, imagine a giant, snowy peak. Make it as vivid as possible. Connecting words to personal experiences also strengthens memory. For example, if you associate smooth with the feeling of touching silk, it becomes more memorable. Then, there's spaced repetition, one of the most effective memory techniques. This method involves reviewing words at increasing intervals, after a few hours, then after a day, then a few days later, and so on. Research shows that this technique significantly boosts long-term retention. Apps like Anki or Quizlet can help automate spaced repetition and make your learning process easier. Fun and creative learning techniques. Learning doesn't have to be boring. Here are some creative ways to make memorizing vocabulary enjoyable. First, try word association games. Connect new words to other words, images, or personal experiences. If the word is sparkling, associate it with fireworks, a diamond ring, or soda bubbles. The more connections you make, the stronger your memory will be. Next, engage in karaoke learning. Songs are fantastic tools for memorization because they involve rhythm and repetition. Sing along to English songs, and you'll find yourself remembering words effortlessly. Another great technique is vocabulary scavenger hunts. Challenge yourself to find new words in books, movies, or even everyday life. Keep a small notebook where you jot down interesting words you come across and try to use them in a sentence later. Then there's role playing. Pretend you're in a real-life situation, like ordering food at a restaurant or shopping, and use the new vocabulary in conversation. This makes learning practical and fun. Finally, use comics and cartoons. Visual storytelling helps reinforce vocabulary by linking words with images. Read comic strips or create your own using new words. The funnier or more absurd the story, the better you'll remember it. Common mistakes to avoid. Before we wrap up, let's talk about some common mistakes that slow down vocabulary learning. One of the biggest mistakes is cramming too many words at once. Instead of trying to learn 50 words in a day, focus on 5 to 10 words and use them repeatedly over time. Another mistake is ignoring word usage. Knowing a definition isn't enough, you have to use the word in sentences and conversations. Otherwise, it won't become part of your active vocabulary. Not reviewing words often is another pitfall. If you don't revisit new vocabulary regularly, you'll forget most of it within days. Spaced repetition is key. Many learners also fear making mistakes. But here's the truth. Mistakes are part of the learning process. If you never use new words because you're afraid of getting them wrong, you'll never master them. So, don't hesitate to speak and write, even if it's not perfect. The key to mastering vocabulary is consistency. Keep using these techniques daily, and you'll be amazed at how much you retain.